Israel. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Could I first of all respond to this notion that outside interference is some way damaging to peace processes? To follow the logic of that, this European Union and indeed the world at large should turn its back on every single conflict around the world and pretend it's none of our business. It is a nonsense argument, Mrs Dodds, and I urge you to review your view on it. Mr. President, it is entirely legitimate for this Parliament to examine potential threats to freedom of speech and freedom of association in any state with which we have a trading relationship. Our treaties oblige us to engage in trade on an ethical basis. Israel, which has a very close trade relationship with the EU, cannot be exempt from such scrutiny. I welcome the changes that have been made so far to the NGO funding bill in the Knesset Law Committee, due no doubt to the international pressure that has been mounted, but it is still only at the first stage. There still has to go back to the Knesset, it has to come back into the committee and go through a second and a third stage. We do not yet know what the final version will be like. However, the bill as it still remains is a draconian and unbalanced bill which will discriminate in favour of private donations from foreign entities who will not have to disclose the source or purpose of such donations. So it is either a bill about transparency or it is not. If it is, then it has to be complete transparency. I am sceptical regarding the final outcome, and I believe the European Parliament and the Commission and the Council must maintain its vigilance and make it clear that legislation, if passed, which goes beyond balanced transparency requirements, will have a bearing on our relationship. I also want to just comment briefly on the proposed boycott legislation, which will attempt to criminalise anybody who supports a boycott of the sale of goods produced illegally in the illegal settlements in Europe, and I would regard that as a breach of the right to political action. Thank you.
There is a blue card raised by Mr. Belder. Will you accept the question, Mr. Proinsias? Will you accept the question, blue card question? Mr. Belder, you have the floor. 30 seconds.
Dank u wel, meneer de voorzitter. Mijn geachte collega De Rossa had het zojuist over dus inderdaad